Welcome to another episode of This Woman Works, episode 37. And on this episode, I have someone that is definitely used to looking and forecasting some great
Mhm.
things. But this episode, we're going to forecast some black excellence. That would be
All
with
right.
Miss Ashley Renee. What's going on? How you doing?
All right, I'm doing pretty well. And how are you doing?
Doing great, doing great. We're
Mhm.
going to get into your journey and how you
Mhm.
arrived to where you are. Of course, for those that don't know, Ashley is a meteorologist. So that
Mhm.
is something that I was like, wow, okay, okay. I know
Mhm.
one here in Nashville, Mr. Leland Statham. So
Oh
I
yeah.
was like, okay, let me go ahead and bring someone else on and hear her story and how she arrived to where she is. We're going to get into that story and more in a sec. But of course, with every episode, we open up with the Black Girl Magic moment. And in this episode, I wanted to talk about Miss Maria Taylor. Now, Maria Taylor, everyone knows her from NBC, but we're going to get started from the beginning. She actually was born in Cookeville, Tennessee, which a lot of people probably don't know. Her dad actually was a coach at Tennessee Tech University
Mhm.
in Cookeville, Tennessee. That is why she was born in Cookeville, Tennessee. Now,
Okay.
she was raised, of course, in Georgia, did play volleyball and basketball
Mhm.
there all the way through going to the University of Georgia. Of course, you know her most from the NBA Countdown and things
Mhm.
like that. But of course, she first joined SEC Network back in 2014 as a sideline reporter. And then she actually ended up replacing Sam Ponder on College Game Day for a couple years before joining the NBA Countdown in 2019, the NBA Countdown desk, I should say. She was a basically a star
Mhm.
at at ESPN, doing whatever she they basically said in front of her. She handled it and did it very very well, despite a few haters or one hater in the background. We're not
Yeah.
gonna mention that name right now, but in 2020, of course, ESPN knew that she was great and knew that she had the potential to be great, and they actually were trying to bump her contract from $1 million to $5 million. However, she turned it down. And of course, with the background of all the things that were going on, which eventually would come out, conversations between a certain young woman that used to host NBA
Mhm.
Countdown as well, but
Right.
she got replaced by Maria Taylor for the NBA Finals that year, the pregame and a halftime show, and that's Rachel Nichols. But um, that conversation got leaked. Of course, that was pretty terrible that was even leaked, and that she had to, basically, I guess Maria had to listen to all those things being said behind her back. It came to the last day of the 2021 finals. She did the 2021 finals, left after that day. People were wondering, where's she gone? She's a free agent. What's going on? And then she pops up at the Olympics 2 days later, hosting NBC, and then A Star is Born on the NBC network, where she actually is hosting Football Night in America during the season, college football during that season. And she's just basically doing the Olympics too. Gets the opportunity to do the Olympics, and it wouldn't surprise me with NBC getting basketball rights back that if she jumped on that too. But I have to give props to her for basically doing exactly what she felt was right for her in the moment, continuing to be authentically herself. And when she felt like she was not getting her worth at ESPN, she was like, okay, cool. I'm going to go do what I have to do. I salute you, Miss Maria Taylor, the Black Girl Magic moment of this episode. Ashley, you got anything you
All
want to
right.
say?
And yeah, now I haven't kept up with sports too much lately over the last few years. Well, not really so much the games, but the commentators, the journalists, and things. But I do remember hearing a little bit about that situation. So yeah, it's good that she was still able to elevate herself to move on where she was celebrated, respected, and still continuing to soar.
Right, right.
Mhm.
And, I salute her as well. But I also salute you because, of
Mhm.
course, you are telling the weather. Now, I will say this: there's a running joke with me, and I don't. I'm just saying this. The weather people are the only people I know that can get things wrong, but still keep their job. It's a joke. I know
Yeah.
it's a joke. I know.
Well,
But I
everyone says it. The only thing is, when people say that, it's like, now, all y'all at your other jobs be wrong too. You are still employed.
this is true. This
And
is
we
true.
are not
This is true.
rich. Maybe if you're working in those big cities like San Francisco, New York, they're
Mhm.
rich, but I am not.
I hear you there. I hear you there. Now, of course, I say that trying to be funny, and I will say I didn't I didn't arrive at a great place to be a comedian. So so but I will say, whether people do get a lot of grief with the weather and things like that, but you also help us out tremendously by letting us know, hey, it's going to rain this day, what time it's going to rain, all those different things as well. So for as much grief as weather people get, they should get a lot of compliments and props as well for all the great things that they forecast to us ahead of time. So I salute you for that.
And I
But
wasn't offended by the joke. It's just what comes with being in this
mhm,
position.
I hear you. I understand, but I also have to give both sides of everything, of course. Can't just say that and then not say what other people do add as well. But
Yeah.
I want to get into your story. I want to get your story starting with young Ashley. Now, where did you grow up?
Well, I was born in Atlanta, but I grew up in New Orleans first. So I always just say New Orleans is home for me, or at least I'll say it's my first home. And then I was in Atlanta again as an older child. But my family, they're basically all born and raised in New Orleans. But again, I just ended up being born in Atlanta. Then I lived there again when I was older. But while I was still in New Orleans, that's pretty much where I knew I wanted to be a meteorologist, probably just watching the local news stations as a kid. My mom claims that I knew I wanted to do this since I was 2 years old, but I only remember wanting to do it since I was about 6 years old. And just from there, I read different weather books and eventually found my way into studying it once I got to college.
Okay, so I've got to ask, growing up in New Orleans, how was that? Because I've been to New Orleans, and one thing I noticed, if you've never been to New Orleans, just anybody listening, all the interstates, you never get one that actually goes like even or up. They all go down into New Orleans, which New
Yeah.
Orleans is below sea level, if you didn't know that. So how was it growing up in New Orleans?
Well, I mean, it was a lot of fun. There were some things that I didn't experience because I was just too young. Like, a lot of people that reminisce on New Orleans pre-Katrina. I was there, still growing up there before the storm even happened, but I wasn't out at a lot of things because, again, I was still a little kid. And in the 90s, that's when the city had, I guess, become a little bit more dangerous compared to when my mom grew up. So while there were a lot of kids still walking around everywhere, hanging out with their friends, I was a little bit more sheltered. My family is just very protective of me, well, protective of all of us. So while it was fun going to different Mardi Gras parades and just other events going on in the city, there were still some things I didn't really catch up on doing, so to speak, until I got older and moved back for college.
Okay, all right, all right. So you said meteorologist, and
Mhm.
you want to be one from and your mom said you wanted to be one from a young age, but
Mhm.
you said you didn't remember that. So I've got to ask, what do you remember wanting to really want to be, maybe outside of being a meteorologist when you were a kid?
Well, I do remember that. I wanted to be since I was 6 years old, but she claims I wanted that since I was 2 years old. So
Oh, okay.
there's a disagreement between what age I recognize. I thought it was six. She claims I was pointing to a TV at 2 years old to probably a reporter, I guess, just saying that's what I wanted to do, or just kept pointing like trying to give some type of hint that I want to do that. So she says two, I say six, but I have known since about kindergarten, first grade that this is what I want to do.
Okay. All right. So there weren't any other inklings of anything growing up that you thought of, like maybe I want to try that too?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of things. I thought of even fashion designer, librarian, interior designer, all these different things, but this has still pretty much been the number one goal.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, we're gonna definitely get into your
Mhm.
career in meteorology. I hope I said that right, meteorology.
Yeah,
But
meteorology. Yeah.
It's a mouthful to say for sure. But we're going to get into your career in meteorology and kind of, I guess, kind of go along the journey with you. But first, of course, we do have to take a commercial break on This Woman Works.
Okay.
EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash are two of the best beard grooming products for men worldwide. They help promote growth, keep your beard moisturized and soft, and enhance your overall upkeep of your facial hair. And with the new promo code MPAFC10, you can get 10% off all these products. Just go to www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. Again, that's www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. And again, the promo code MPAFC10. Again, MPAFC10, where you can get 10% off any products except for beard boxes. So treat your beard better today by going to get the EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash.
All right, and we are back on This Woman Works, episode 37, Forecasting Black Excellence with Ashley Renee. Now, of course, plenty of people are probably wondering, I know maybe people are wondering, why do I have a beard commercial on a show that is about Black women? Now, I'm not saying anything about Black women growing beards. That is not what I'm talking about in this commercial. But what I am talking about in this commercial is that a lot of times we as Black men do not take care of ourselves very well. Hence, where Black women come into play. Like, hey, maybe you need this, maybe you need this, maybe you need that. Yeah, EBO Beard Butter, Beard Wash. Yeah, get that for yourselves. And also, ladies, if you're watching, get that for your either significant others, your daddy, your uncle, your cousin that got the scruffy beard that just be walking around scratching people. Yeah, get it for him too. Just wanted to throw that out there. But getting back to the show, you mentioned being interested in meteorology at a young age. So when you hit college, things like that. I didn't ask for your college, but we'll get into that. So when you got into college meteorology, was it what you expected it to be?
Initially it wasn't, because I knew it was a hard science, but I just didn't realize how hard until I actually started taking the classes. So it was just a lot of math and physics involved in taking those meteorology courses. Although we don't do any of those equations on air, mainly because we just don't have the time, but and we also just look at all of the computer models that pretty much compute all those different equations. But it's just a lot of physics and chemistry that goes into meteorology. I knew the baseline of that when I was just looking at the broad overview of meteorology terms, high pressure, low pressure, cold front, warm front, all those things. But it's not until you're in those classes like mesoscale meteorology and physical meteorology, synoptic, physical climatology, all those things that you have to learn how to calculate wind speed and sun temperature, and if just work out equations for scenarios like if this happened at this time, would fog be a factor, something like that.
Wow, I just got educated right there. I didn't know all that went into it. Wow. But where did you go to college?
Well, I have my mass communication degree from Xavier University of Louisiana. Then I went off to Mississippi State to get my broadcast meteorology degree.
How did I know you were going to say Mississippi State? How did I know it? Because I've literally heard people saying that if you want to be a meteorologist, that's where you go to college. I've heard
pretty much. We are like one of the top 2 programs in the country. There's a few schools that have it, but normally if you're looking at a broadcast meteorologist, they either did the undergrad degree, their online certificate, a master's degree, or some type of capacity. They went to Mississippi State.
Okay, and then also I can't go along without saying, shout out to Xavier University, of course. Greg Lee is an alumni there, and he would if I didn't say anything about that, he would probably tell me about that. Shout out to Greg Lee, real good dude, and he's
I met him a couple of times, yeah.
All right, okay. So let's go a little bit further. You went to Mississippi State, you've
Mm-hmm.
graduated from there. Your first gig as a meteorologist,
Mm-hmm.
where was that and what was it like?
Well, I started in Greenville, Mississippi at the Delta News. This was June 2021. And it's just funny how fast time goes by because I almost lost track of when I started. But just almost 4 years into the industry, I had a break in my education while I was at Mississippi State due to some financial issues in my personal life. And it took me a while to get back into school. So once I finally got back in 2020, graduated in 2021, then I started working that summer in Greenville, Mississippi at the Delta News. But I enjoyed my time there. It's definitely small TV markets like market 180 something. And it came with its small market issues like, smaller staff, less technology to work with. But I'm someone who makes the best of every situation. And some viewers loved me. They loved my personality, the smile that I have. And then some were just proud to see, a Black woman doing something like this. So I really engaged well with the community. And when it was time for me to move on, which I had the option to stay, but it's like in this industry, if you see an opportunity come up to get more money or get closer to home, sometimes you just, take that offer and go. But if that offer didn't come up, then I probably would have stayed at least for one more round with another contract that I would have resigned. But yeah, it was a bittersweet time when I left. The community missed me a lot. I still miss them. Some still message me even today, just saying they miss me, or still send me some viewer pictures of a nice sunrise, sunset, the moon, just the sky somewhere in the Mississippi Delta.
I wonder if they sent you pictures of snow since it snowed pretty recently down the south. Did they get any snow in Mississippi?
Not when we had ours last week. It was earlier this month that they had some snow. I think a couple of people sent me pictures, and I know last year it snowed there, and I got a lot of pictures from them too, with different people sending it to me.
Okay. All right. All right. So, of course you've been, in the industry for a good bit now, for, a few years now. So when was that first moment you were like, okay, cool, this is where I'm supposed to be?
I guess it just kind of came down to when, people see your hard work and they just recognize you. Of course, you don't want to do things for external validation. You want to do it for yourself. But it's like once you kind of get your groove, then you feel like, okay, maybe this is where I'm meant to be. It seems like I've received positive feedback so far. If I didn't do well, then I guess everyone would be telling me, do something else, because obviously you can like your career, but if you have to give a performance, so to speak, for the audience, like you do in this industry, and you're just not well at it, then, if you get enough negative feedback, then someone may say, it's just time to, move on, maybe try something else. But I haven't really had that. Of course, I had maybe like one or two comments, just relate to, oh, you said it was going to do this and that. And so, okay, well, that was just two people. Most of the feedback I've gotten has been positive. If it's not specifically about the forecast, and it's people talking about my smile or warm spirit, and just trying to engage with the audience when I'm on air. Now, I'm not someone who's very animated, but again, some people just like someone who's calm, who can sense they're sweet, and just kind of make them feel like things will be okay. So I think it's just all those kind of different little comments like that, positive feedback, just made me feel like, okay, I guess I can do this, and I really am doing this. I'm in my career, something I've always wanted to do. I never gave a thought to how long I wanted to be in this industry. I just knew that I wanted to do it.
Now, I will say that in being in the industry and being a meteorologist, you probably have to balance, a little bit of personality with a lot of fact as well. Is that a pretty accurate assessment?
It is, and also sometimes it's, subjective based on where you work. Like at my last station, pretty much how I'm talking to you now, that's how I was a lot of the times on air. And other times, I had a good laugh with my second anchor that I started working with. We really clicked, and, she was a lot of fun to work with. And I had other people there that I had so much fun working with too. So we would have our on-air laughs. But here, I'm kind of the same way, but sometimes I'll hear feedback from bosses like, okay, be a little bit more energetic, keep your energy up. So for me, sometimes I have to work a little harder to be more upbeat. I try not to sound boring on air, but again, I'm not very animated either. So I guess I let more of my personality shine if we're having anchor chats and it's something that's just silly or goofy and we're just making jokes about it. Then I just kind of like, okay, in my mind, now people need to know their information. Let's get back to discussing the forecast. I don't have to be so serious if it's nothing serious going on, but still just, trying to get back to the point.
Okay. All right. So, with any job, there's going to be, there's going to be bright days, but there's also going to be some dark days as well. And that's where the hurdles and advice kind of see you through. But we're going to get into kind of, those hurdles and that advice. But, first, one more commercial break on This Woman Works.
A shift. A shift is something that happens and changes the dynamics. And that's what happened when Garrett Logistics was born. After 10 years as a sales pro in the logistics world of sporting goods, John Garrett decided to pivot to the world of freight and start a brokerage. So you're saying to yourself, why trust Garrett Logistics? Well, Garrett Logistics helps shippers improve overall workflow, along with increased on-time pickup and delivery percentages. Last-minute loads, multi-drop pickups, and more are part of the services with Garrett Logistics. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., all times Central Standard Time. So give them a ring at 615-400-8484. That's 615-400-8484, or you can email them at john@garrettlogistics.co or visit their website at garrettlogistics.co. Garrett Logistics, where the motto is, it's not just freight to us, it's your business.
All right, and we are back on episode 37 of This Woman Works with the lovely Ashley Renee. Now, before the break, we discussed her career and kind of dove into that, but we also have to dive into the other side of her career, which would be, of course, the hurdles and, some advice to help along the way. Now, we're going to start with the hurdles. And, what's been one of the biggest hurdles that you've had in your career so far?
I guess, well, it kind of is before my career started. Like I mentioned earlier, when I was at Mississippi State, I had to take a break from school due to financial issues that were going on in my life. So it was pretty much just a dark period, so to speak, because it just felt like everything financially was just going wrong in my life. So it's like, I already don't have any more money to get back into school at this point. Then had a very short bout with homelessness, but thankfully wasn't nothing extreme like some other people have had to unfortunately go through. I had somewhere to stay, so to speak, but it was pretty much between a car and one of those extended stay motels. And then just other bills piling up, not enough money to cover it all. So finally, when things started improving for me and with the help of family and a lot of prayer, then I was able to get myself back into school. So it was like the biggest hurdle in my career so far was having to take a break from my schooling before I can get into this field when I thought I would get into it to start in this career a little bit sooner. So it's not really in my career, it's more so before I got to this point. So far in my career, I haven't really had hurdles yet, nothing major. I think the only minor thing, so to speak, would be just needing to have some confidence, believing that I'm doing better than what I am doing, not dealing with imposter syndrome, which is something I've talked about with a few other people who are in this field, because again, there's so much science and math involved in meteorology. And while you're not doing it on air, you still have to remember all that you learned in school, go back to those school notes, look at all the models, the data, soundings, all these things, tie it all together to make your forecast. And then if it's something a little bit complicated, I'll reach out for help, just like, do I really get it? Or, am I still struggling and didn't realize it until this point or something? So.
Okay. All right. And you said, I know you said previously talking about, criticisms coming from, people that are watching the show and things like that. Do those sometimes, some of the criticisms kind of sting a little bit, or do those kind of things that you kind of like brush up, like, okay, well, cool, they have their opinion, I'm just going to keep going?
I kind of brushed it off because, again, most of the feedback that I've had between this current station where I am and my last one has been positive. It was only maybe just a handful, probably just a couple of comments where someone was like, "Oh, you said it's going to be this," and it wasn't that, or just a generic, comment like you said earlier. "Oh, I wish I can, be wrong and still get a job, da da da." But that was really only like one or two people. So most of the feedback I've had has been positive so far. And then also with me now being in a market where we have competing stations, there's still a lot of people, that may not even know who I am, which is fine with me. I didn't get into this industry because I was trying to be famous and well known. This is just something that I wanted to do. So I think when you're sort of at, I guess somewhere where it's less viewership than the number one station in your city, that, kind of helps too, because it's like less eyes on you, so to speak. But in the future, if it happens, I just have to learn how to, have that thick skin, because I've seen some comments other meteorologists have received. And I'm just like, people are really vile and evil, which is nothing new to me, just knowing how things are in the world. But seeing some comments that other meteorologists have gotten is just like, why wake up and be so hateful? And then I also kind of feel like they kind of bring extra embarrassment to themselves if they take a screenshot and post it and be like, well, don't say this to, a woman meteorologist or a black one. It's like, I get your point to, show what not to do, but also just feels like now it's more embarrassment because now you're showing what they said to you.
Mm-hmm. I get you. I understand. It's definitely a lot of different ways you can look at it as well. Hey, there's all these different, you giving them shine, but also, they could be embarrassing themselves, or, there's all different avenues. But anyway, also I would ask as well, of course, during, your journey, I know you probably had mentors and people there around you give you advice and things like that. But what is some of the best advice, or one of the best bit of advice that you have actually taken with you and kind of carried you through your journey?
It's going to sound cliche, and it hasn't been said in direct words, but basically when people just say, be you, be yourself, you hear this for almost anything in life, but it really is true, because I think sometimes when we get into this field, some people may see somebody doing something one way and decide, you know what, I want to do that too. And, maybe you can fake it for a while, but if that's not your real personality or how you actually talk, then it's just like, that's just not authentic. Like for me, when people, coming into the industry, and even when I was still in college and growing up, you always hear, yeah, you have to sound a certain way, look a certain way, do all this. But I feel like the rules have become just a little bit more lax in that sense, which I think helps someone to be more of themselves. I mean, some places may still say lose the accent or, tone it down some. But I think if you're able to keep it, that just ties into your personality of how you grew up and helps you to be more of yourself. Everyone's not going to say the same phrases and sayings, tie in your personality and, let people see the authentic you to hopefully be more relatable to them. Because someone messaged me last year sometime. And again, I've only been in Baton Rouge since August 2023. But she says something about how I said something about my radio forecast. And she was like, oh, I can tell you're from Louisiana, just, how you said this and that. And it's like, although I wasn't born in New Orleans, knowing that part of my childhood was spent there is nice, connecting with people who can still hear a little bit of it. It's just not this flat, boring announcer voice. I like that I get to be myself, basically. Long way around just saying I like that I get to be myself.
Okay. All right. Well, I did detect a little bit of Nolans in your talk. Now, of course, I can't act like I, or try to speak like I'm from New Orleans. I am not Brian Kelly. I will not try to do that. But so I will leave that to everyone from there. Yeah. But of course, I will ask as well. What advice, besides what you just said, what advice do you have for anyone that may be wanting to get into the meteorology field like you have?
I would say if you're not great with math or chemistry or physics, you have to start studying now, whether you're in college or in high school. I've always loved science, but I wasn't always the best at math. Well, grade school, like elementary, middle school, A's. Once I got to high school and calculus 1, 2, and 3, no, algebra 1, 2, and 3, hated algebra, always did. That's where things started going left. But you need these classes because when I got to college, not Xavier, since that was my mass communication degree, but when I went to Mississippi State, since I did another bachelor's degree, I had to take algebra and had to do my physics 1, my physics 2, Cal 1, Cal 2, trigonometry. So if you're not great at those things, try to start practicing now, get all the tutoring that you need. Now, if you're doing the broadcast route, you just have to, of course, get through the classes and pass them, but you're not using them on air. But if you're going the professional route, maybe you want to work for the National Weather Service, operational meteorology, government, you do have to do a little bit more math than the broadcast route. But again, if you're terrible at that, or if you're great at math, but not great at the chemistry and physics, which is still math involved, just try to do all the studying that you can and tutoring. And just watch your favorite meteorologist. Again, see how they do their forecast. Again, be yourself, but, try to see if you want to emulate them just a little bit. Like, okay, they made this cute dog walking forecast. I think that's something I want to do. Maybe they choose to wear a certain color one day of the week to mean this is how I want to start my week, this is how I want to end it. Or if there's a severe weather threat on the way and they always wear red that day, I want to do that too. Try to take little bits and pieces of things you like, but of course still make it your own thing, your own personality shine, your own authenticity.
Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. Definitely sound advice. And I would say that I've enjoyed getting to know you, the meteorologist, where you grew up, all the different things, you've overcome, like, about with, like you mentioned, about with homelessness at one point, and still able to thrive and become a great meteorologist. And for that, I salute you. But we're not to the end of the show, though. We do have a speed round. It's 10 questions, 10 random questions. Get to know you better. Are you ready?
Oh, the random questions. I'm kind of scared, but I guess I'm ready.
All right. Well, one of them, this isn't a question, but I do have to ask. Did you like the movie Twister growing up?
I did like the movie. I just saw it a month or two ago again. It had been so long since I've seen it, but I did like the movie growing up. Now, I still haven't seen the Twisters that just came out, mainly just because I'm not a big movie person. So thinking about going to the movies is always at the back of my mind or just not there at all.
Got you. Well, that was actually the first question. What's your favorite movie?
I like a lot of, I guess, comfort movies that I saw. Not to age myself, but 90s and 2000s movies. I can't really pick one, but I love all the Rush Hour movies. I loved Mean Girls. Just anything that's really funny. It doesn't always have to be like romantic comedy or like some dramedy. Just something funny.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Look, I wasn't trying to age you, by the way, but I definitely would say some 80s movies are some of my favorites, like Breaking, breakdancing movie. I used to want to be Turbo. I used to want to be Turbo when I was a kid. Let's see. Purple Rain.
Oh yeah.
Love that movie still. Of course, but I'll be quiet. I'm gonna end up naming those, and we can sit here forever and not get through all these questions. Let's see. Who's your favorite actor or actress?
Ooh. Okay, I'm going to go with Keke Palmer. She's just a couple of years behind me, but I've watched her in different things that she's done, and she just seems like a really down-to-earth person. Like, she's a great actress, but even when I see different clips of her online, whether someone's interviewing her on a talk show or their podcast or just something, just seems like she's always just very cool, down-to-earth, like, she could just be anybody's friend.
Okay. All right. Well, Keke Palmer has been mentioned, I think, twice. The last episode and now this episode, Keke Palmer's been mentioned, but in different ways, though. In different ways. Let's see. Who's your favorite singer?
Ooh. I'm going to go with, it's a tie between two gospel artists.
Hmm.
CeCe Winans and Yolanda Adams.
Okay.
They
Well,
both
actually,
have great voices and great
okay.
songs.
Okay.
Mm.
Well, CeCe Winans, I actually used to go to church with her. So there you
Okay.
go. Hmm.
Okay.
One person, dead or alive, you'd like to sit down and pick their brain.
Ooh. Okay. I guess I will go with. I haven't thought about this before, but I'll just say Stevie Wonder. I love his music. We have the
Mhm.
same birthday. I would just
Okay.
talk to him about his musical genius. Mhm.
There you go. There we go.
Mhm.
Yeah, he definitely is one of the greatest artists of all time. I mean, to do
Mhm.
all those things and still can't see, it just blows my mind every time I think about it.
Well, of course, some conspiracies say he actually can see. I don't know. I just laugh at some things I see about that.
Yeah, I'm not I haven't looked too much into it, and that was no pun intended, by the way. Let's see. Worst movie that you've ever seen.
Worst movie.
Sounds to me that you probably don't like scary movies, do you?
I do to an extent. Like the bloody goriness, I don't care for that just because I think it's just too much. But the movies, the scary movies where it's just like the inanimate objects just move all of a sudden or the
Hmm.
car's killing somebody, then that's what will do it for me. That would
Hmm.
be a little scary. But the worst movie, I can't think of one. I can't even
Okay.
think of the name. It was something I saw in high school. Again, I'd rarely go to the movies. I went to the movies more growing up than I have as an adult. And it was something that my friends took me to see after we left prom. And I was just like, what is this? I don't know if it was that movie, Baby Mama, Pineapple Express, something in the late 2000s, early 2010s. I don't even know. I'm probably still not even talking about the right movie. I have no idea.
Got you, got you. Favorite childhood memory.
um, hmm, I don't know. I enjoyed all the field trips I went on. It's hard to
Mhm.
pinpoint one thing, but I had fun field trips when I was in New Orleans, when I was in Atlanta. I did like living in New Orleans more, especially just being around our family before my mom and I moved away to Atlanta when I was older. So
Mhm.
just somewhere along those lines, being around family more, just different kid things. Oh, growing up in the 90s and 2000s, TV was great, and so was music. So that's always a core thing.
Right, right. Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely music in the 90s. Boy, oh boy. I still
Mhm.
remember, I'm in the 90s and I'm listening to the New Jack City soundtrack, even though I'm probably not supposed to be listening to it, but I was listening to it. Let's see. Your favorite food.
Favorite food, I do love pasta a lot. It
Okay.
can be spicy pasta. It can be, I don't know, just pasta. I love pasta. But if it's talking about like regional thing, then of course Southern food, Creole food, that's up there. But if it's just like type, probably just pasta.
Gotcha. Okay. Song that's in current rotation for you, in constant rotation for you, I should say.
Mm, there's a lot of songs that's in constant rotation.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, it's shoot. Currently, it's a lot of not new age. That's not the word I'm looking for. Pretty much urban gospel music. Pretty much just some,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, R&B type songs. But it's by this artist called Amine. No, what's that girl's name? Wande, called Wild and Free.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's sort of like a Christian R&B song, but yeah, her name is Wande, and the song is called Wild and Free. But then also listen to a lot of old school gospel on the regular, the '90s mass choir songs. So I say
Mhm.
it's just a lot of songs that's just pretty much on the repeat.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
All right. This one's going to be a tough one for you. Who would play you in a biopic?
Yeah, that's very tough.
This one gets everybody.
I remember, and I don't know if our faces have kind of changed a little bit as the years have gone on. I remember when President Obama was first elected, my family members, and sometimes some people outside of family said I looked like Michelle Obama. But I think over the years, our faces, sometimes it kind of changes a little bit. I don't really see the similarities anymore like I did when they were in office, but maybe she can, although of course she's tall and I'm short, but maybe her.
Okay. All right. And last one, your favorite restaurant?
I don't really go out to eat a lot either. I have no idea. I just mostly eat at home.
Hey,
eat at home or eat with family.
Kitchen, basically. All right. Well, hey, that's the speed round. You're off the hot seat. The show has ended, but of course, I got to thank you for coming on the show, allowing us to dive into your journey and learn more about your journey to being a meteorologist, giving us the highs and lows and all the things in between as well. I want to thank you for coming on the show. Now, if you can, tell everyone where they can find you on social media.
Okay. And this feels weird to do because I'm also someone who's not on social media a lot. Like I said, I'm kind of reserved and everything. I don't really talk about it, but I'm on Twitter, Ashley Renee Weather, but we also just use WX to mean weather. So it's just Ashley Renee Weather. And again, that's WX, not weather spelled out. I'm also on Facebook as meteorologist Ashley Renee. I have Instagram, not really my professional one, is just mine, but it's Brew Me with Happiness. And that's just kind of a play on my last name, which is Brewer. But Instagram, Brew Me with Happiness.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Well, I thank you for coming on. Of course, I'm the host of the show, Mike Patton. You can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter. I will not call it X because the only two X's that I recognize is DMX and Malcolm X. So basically, the artist formerly known as Twitter, you can find me on there at Mike Patton 82. That's MikePatton 82. Of course, on Instagram and Threads, you can find me there at that's THA, not THE _general_MP. And you can also find me I forgot, you can also find me on Blue Sky. Mike Patton 82. I'm on there as well. And you can also find This Woman Works on all listening platforms, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, you name it, we are there. And we're also on YouTube at the Mike Patton Podcast Network. I want to thank you all for tuning into this episode 37, Forecasting Black Excellence with Ashley Renee. I'm Mike Patton, your host of Touring the ANC South. We're out. Peace.